What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with another episode talking about college football. We're going to welcome in our co-host. It's been a while, Cody Almasi. Cody, how you doing, buddy? Talk to you. I talked to you a little bit over the holiday. How was your holiday season? I've been missing you on here. I know you've been busy with family and things like that. How you been? How's the family? And how was your holidays, man?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. My holidays, they were blessed. They're full of, like you said, family. First one for my son, the little guy, Finnan Almasi. So lots of family to see, lots of gifts to unwrap, most of them for him and not me this year. So a little bit of adjustments there, but that's okay. And yeah, been busy, but been wanting to get on a podcast. Lots of good things happening in the state of Michigan for sports, for football, especially rocking the maize and blue down here, and then the Honolulu blue and silver up top because the Lions are NFC North champions, and my Wolverines are Rose Bowl champions. So if anybody's been watching the show for the last couple of years, it's just kind of all happening at once for us over here, and it's just a good time to be a Wolverine, to be a Lion, to watch football in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, it's a blessing. A lot of people are happy with the state of affairs for both Michigan and the Lions right now. You know, other than Decker, the fact that Decker reported, and we're seeing it on billboards all over Metro Detroit, all over Michigan, even in the Flint area, we're seeing them. So, we'll kind of leave that to Rocco and Musa. But just real quick, I guess, what are your 2 cents about that incident, that debacle? And I know I was causing a lot of controversy saying, how about them Cowboys wearing the navy blue starred sweatshirt this past weekend? But what are your 2 cents on that whole debacle?
The refs and the Cowboys, I got some choice words for both those groups of individuals, especially Brad Allen, his crew. It just seems like they got it out for the Detroit Lions. It really is Detroit versus everybody around here, and that was a dub all day, twice on Sunday. If it's not prime time in Dallas, that flag doesn't get thrown, and Jerry's World was pulling all the strings out for Jimmy Johnson's Hall of Fame Ring of Honor night, I guess, is how I feel. And it's just a load of shit, man. I'm tired of the Lions just getting the raw end of the deal. And maybe it's because we're all fans. We watch it so closely. And it has just been the Lions' mantra to deal with those kind of extra obstacles that it doesn't seem like the average team in the league has to deal with. But especially this year when we're just rolling, man, you're beating a team like that in this time of the year. It's just it sucks to see it come down to that. On the flip side of that, though, Lions had a lot of other chances to get the game done before then, take points early in the first half, and then you're not even in that situation. You kick a field goal and get out of there. But we know that Dan Campbell, he hates field goals and he loves to gamble. And that dude was so juiced up about what just happened to him. Like the whole city of Detroit, he's one of us. He's the people's coach. That he literally could not go for it. I think if it would have been from the 50-yard line, he would have said, Jared Goff, send one to Amon-Ra or J-Mo, whatever you got to do, find a way to get it in there. And his guys believe they can do it. But that's what's great about this Lions team. And I'll just leave it at there because I could talk about these Lions for a lot. But this is the college podcast.
Yeah, that's the last thing I'll say about it. Yeah, I hear you. The last thing I'll say about it is, and this could go one of 2 ways for Detroit going forward. It's either gonna work against them and say, all right, all the wind is taken out of our sails. The refs have it out against us, whether or not we go for it multiple times after the chance to get a PAT and go to overtime. I know Dan Campbell hates the field goal, hates the PAT model. He wanted to get those 2 points out of spite. He wanted to end that game right then and there. Or the flip side of that is this is going to light a fire like you never would believe under the asses of every one of those Detroit Lions to say, you know what, this is our chance. This is the momentum we needed. This is the push we needed the right direction to just go and win it all. I mean, why not? So it's going to happen one of two ways. We're going to see that play out here in the final game against the Vikings and then going into the playoffs. So it's exciting stuff for Detroit and the entire Lions fan base. But let's get into it. Let's talk about brass tacks. Let's talk about what's going on. We had the semis for the CFP go on. Real quick, before we get into the semis, I want to talk to you just very, very quick. The Florida State-Georgia game, that really kind of proved the committee to be somewhat innocent. It proved them to be sane. It proved them to be on the right side of things when that was such a blowout. Maybe they made the right call. I think a lot of people in the college football world are seeing the light with that, including myself, where it's like, okay, yeah, Florida State got robbed. Having their backup come in there, seeing Jordan Travis get injured, basically their season get ruined with an unscathed record, and it kind of looked like an injustice was done. But to see what happened with Georgia and Florida State, kind of looks like they made the right decision. Real quick, what are your 2 cents on that story?
Yeah, Georgia proved to themselves to be in a different caliber, and maybe they proved that the committee made the right decision leaving Florida State out, but also maybe they made a mistake leaving Georgia out because, hey, who knows what that Georgia team would have done against my Wolverines, who couldn't get out of their own way, it seemed like, on Saturday. So Monday, the first. The holidays got me all messed up here. I'm like, what day was that? The Lions
Hey,
game was on
usually college
Saturday.
football's on a Saturday, so get a
Monday Night
pass there.
Football, the Lions Monday Night Football edition on Saturday. That kind of threw me
Yeah.
for a loop. But
Yeah.
this Georgia team, they have the advantage as far as recruiting, the athletes, the coaching staff, the equipment over Florida State, and it all just came to fruition right there. Especially you see the opt out, the transfer portal, all that stuff for Florida State, but then you have almost an equally long list on the Georgia side. Brock Bowers and a lot of other key players that helped the Georgia Bulldogs be so successful this year. And maybe it was just Alabama getting in their head and Nick Saban getting in Kirby Smart's head that got him by 3 points that one game. But Georgia was probably the better team than Alabama if it comes down to it. So they may have proved the committee made a right decision in one way, but made a wrong decision in another way.
Yeah, you can never be perfect. If you're the committee, you can never make the perfect decisions. Obviously, you have a lot less room for error, and you're going to create more room for error going forward with the 12-team format. So we're looking forward to that, and that's going to create some cushion for the committee in their decision-making process. So we'll have to look forward to that as it approaches us this season. Let's move on. Let's talk about this real quick. Real quick, though, we just want to talk about everything that's going on. It's a lot. So take it all with a grain of salt. We got it. We made it. We made it to the final part of the season, essentially. We made it to the championship game, which is the college football playoff championship between Michigan and Washington. We're excited for it. We're going to talk about it. But first, we got to talk about the semis. And I know Cody's going to want to talk about all this stuff as it progresses. But real quick, let's just talk about the Texas-Washington game. So Texas-Washington in the Sugar Bowl, January 1st, 2024. This was a big game. We expected to see this. 2 future teams, one going to the SEC this coming season, the other coming to the Big Ten this season. And, speaking on the 12-team format, you're seeing super conferences align. You're seeing super conferences form, and they're becoming a reality. It's just one of those things with the world of sports. With NIL, we talked about it with Sobo, how much the world of sports is changing. The landscape is changing. College football is changing. Geography has been thrown completely out the window when it comes to where do teams align as far as conferences. Notre Dame is still not part of a conference. You got teams from the West Coast that basically has fizzled out. It is made the Pac-12 non-existent in a very real sense. So to talk about that, from a broad perspective, it's interesting, it's scary, it's exciting, and you can look at it from a lot of different ways. But this game in particular, Matthew McConaughey was on the sidelines. This was a back and forth game. This looked like Washington the entire way. Michael Penix was doing everything he could to win this game, and they get exactly what they deserve. They win the game 37-31 in the Sugar Bowl, and that's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff. You're Washington. If you're Michael Penix Jr., you gotta have to, take what you have and you gotta go and you gotta run with it. Even though, yeah, Washington showed us a lot of shakiness this season. Probably should have lost a couple games. They got, squeezed past a few teams very luckily, and they're very lucky to make it to this point in the season. And then they kind of found the gas pedal again coming into the final stretch, the back nine, the last few holes. I'd say from 16 to 18 to finish it out. And they're approaching that 18th hole right now. They're about to head into the bar and grab some drinks. That's what they're about to do, and they're going to face Michigan in the College Football Playoff Championship. But I was really happy with what I saw, and you can see those stats kind of running along the bottom of your screen there. Quinn Ewers didn't show up, didn't play the game. I thought Archie Manning was going to hop in there, get a few chances to throw the pigskin, and that would have been a breath of fresh air. But no, they kept Quinn Ewers in there. Had a touchdown, 318 yards passing, 24 for 43 passes for attempts. And they had to really count on their running back, C.J. Baxter, because they outran the Washington Huskies hand over foot. And that was they dominated the rushing game. But on the flip side of that, Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies dominated the Texas Longhorns through the air. And the defense of the Texas Longhorns couldn't stop Michael Penix. So watching that game, it was a back and forth game. Texas had a chance to come back and tie the game, very late in the game. And it was one of those things where it was too little too late. It wasn't going to happen. And I actually fell asleep in the last couple minutes because I just knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew the fans weren't cheering loud enough. Matthew McConaughey wasn't getting the boys pumped enough. And it just wasn't in the cards for Coach Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns as much as I wanted it to be. Because going back historically, I am somewhat of a Texas Longhorns fan. And this year wasn't their season. They didn't belong in the college football playoff. Back to what Cody said. I think Georgia and the Georgia Bulldogs belonged to be in that college football playoff, regardless of what happened with Alabama in the SEC championship game. That's a hot take. Okay, not everybody's going to take my side on that one. But it's just one of those things where you got to see it, you got to expect it, and you got to put the best team out there. Comment from Nick Ballinger, my boy. I don't want to talk about that loss, Bink. I wanted Texas, Michigan so bad. I'll stay riding with my Longhorns. Mad respect, Ballinger. I wanted that game too. I kind of did. Yeah, I like Michael Penix Jr. I like the Washington Huskies. But I wanted Texas, Michigan as well. I wouldn't even been mad about Texas, Alabama, to be honest with you. It's great competition. You got great teams in there. And it's just a hell of a contest. And you got to take your hat off to the best team out there. And that's what happens. Another comment from my boy Nick. He said, I was impressed with how well Washington managed against that Texas defense that was overlooked this year. And yeah, they were overlooked. They were overlooked. They were, I'd say, overpromised. In this game, you can argue that they were underdelivered, but I think they played a hell of a game. The defense really stood up, and it's just really hard to defend that Michael Penix Jr. Washington Huskies pass game. It's really hard to do. Cody, what are your 2 cents about that game? And, did the right team win the game? It was a back and forth game. Texas made a run there late. What were your takeaways from the Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, all I'll say is Texas is not back. Not yet. Gotta finish the job, Longhorns. But it is a handful. Michael Penix, that passing game, and a couple of those receivers are going to be catching NFL passes. So Huskies, I think, were the better team, undefeated. And the Longhorns weren't, throughout the whole season, lost in the Red River shootout, rivalry, showdown, whatever you want to call it. And that's a defining game in your season. And, on the other hand, Washington took care of an impressive Oregon team and Bo Nix twice. And they really shut everybody up as far as the media and the Bo Nix Heisman hype train. Everybody thought Washington got lucky at the first game. Maybe they did. Maybe the elements and being at home helped them in the first game. But then in the neutral field, they took care of business as well. And they were the Pac 12 champions, and now they're Sugar Bowl champions. And they're playing for all the marbles this Monday. And hey, two undefeated teams. They both make it to the mountaintop unblemished. I think it's pretty fitting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got another comment here from Nick Ballinger. Personally, I think next year will be the top 10 team at best, losing 3 key receivers, parts of the defense. It's going to hurt. Yeah, but Coach Sarkisian, Steve Sarkisian's doing a hell of a job down there in Texas. And, I think that the Texas Longhorns are in really good hands going forward, regardless of who they lose. They got a great coaching core, and they're going to be in really good hands going forward. And joining the SEC, obviously the cards are going to be stacked against them a little bit, but they're just going to have to get good. They got to get better. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to take this loss in stride. And I think the Texas Longhorns are going to march on. They've already done a lot better than they have in years past. They were a win now program going back into the 2010s, and they're going to prove that, going into the 2020s, the mid 2020s now that we're in. So I think they're in good hands, and they have nothing to worry about. They just got to grind hard and take this loss in stride and move on to the offseason with a grain of salt and with their heads held high. Good stuff, Coach. Let's talk about the game we're all wanting to talk about. Well, before that, let's talk about the semifinal that your Michigan Wolverines had the pleasure of playing in. Tell us about it a little bit. How'd they do? The Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. Talk to us about the Michigan win in overtime against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, man. What a game. I mean, couldn't have asked for a better match to watch entertainment wise. It was just had everything as far as the back and forth component. One team, Alabama, you start out and your quarterback has zero time at all. The center can't handle the snap. Constantly putting your QB, Jaden Milroe, a guy who's kind of had to develop over the year already in tough situations. And then Michigan, they couldn't seem to get out of their own way. So you had the back and forth aspect of it. But, I mean, as far as just the tradition, the feel of the game coming in, as you said, the granddaddy of them all, it was just quite the spectacle. They had an overhead photo released of the crowds. It's almost perfectly divided, maize on one side and then crimson on the other. And probably one you might want to blow up, frame, put in the man cave. But just to have my team in the Rose Bowl and competing for it, we have a great team and a chance to really, put our lackluster bowl history behind us a little bit. It was nice because that's a game you grow up. Michigan is supposed to be associated with the Rose Bowl, but as far as I've been alive, we haven't really sniffed the Rose Bowl at all. Sparty's been there more recently than us, and had the Rose Bowl shirts, and I was sitting there wondering what's all that about. So now finally get to see my team. The jerseys, I don't know if you guys seen them, but the block M on the shoulder pad with the roses, the little details in the helmet, man, it looked really, really good. And then just to finish the job over Alabama and to now be competing in a national championship, it's a feeling like no other. As far as the game, let's break it down a little bit. Like I said, the offense did not start off spectacular. I mean, the first play from scrimmage, J.J. McCarthy throws what looks to be an interception. And, you got to roll back the tape. And the Alabama defender actually started out of bounds, came back in, but without reestablishing himself. And so Michigan gets a huge, huge break early. But Alabama scores first. Michigan has to respond. And anytime Michigan gets a little momentum, their special teams makes a mistake, or you have some suspect play calling from, I got to believe it's Sharon Moore calling the plays. And, J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corman driving down the field, and then you bring Alex Orgy in the middle of a drive, and it's an RPO. And it's the second time we've seen him in the game already, albeit he had like a 5-yard run the first time, a little bit of success, a surprise, no doubt to the Alabama defensive coordinator and Nick Saban in the Alabama defense, because who would expect to see Alex Orgy in the Rose Bowl when you've seen him in a handful of games all year long? Um, like I was telling John pregame, it just was frustrating as a fan to watch, because when Blake Corum, number 2 all-time leading scorer at Michigan, touches the ball, good things happen. You score touchdowns, you get first downs, but it seemed like they were trying to overthink it and, get too cute with it at times. And it's a Rose Bowl against Nick Saban in Alabama. It's not Week 8 in Big Ten conference play against the Hoosiers, we'll say. So I hope the month off, the rust is a little shaken off, and the team is ready to perform come Monday, because they let Alabama stay in the game, and they found themselves from behind having to force overtime, and they still almost lose it on another special teams miscue, a muffed punt at the 1-yard line, and thank God Thaw lands on it, gets the ball back, and we were able to take a knee. But if you go and watch the footage, he is not even a full yard out of the end zone. It's crazy how different it almost was, and the pain that almost was. I can almost feel it, because we felt it so many times before as Michigan fans, and especially in football in bowl games under Jim Harbaugh. He's just found ways to lose them and has had trouble getting his guys to play their best football after the extended time off. And they did this time.
Yeah, I guess that's the most frustrating thing for me, because everybody knows me, and they might think this is a controversial thing, but Jim Harbaugh is one of my most favorite college football coaches in college football, if not the most sought after and looked up to. And that's coming from me, a State fan. Yes, you heard that correctly, for those of you that don't know. So to see them get to this point and to see them lose so many games, and yes, I'm a Michigan State fan, so some of those games I'm kind of, not too mad about. But the coaching styles, to throw Alex Orgy in there, to have trick plays and stuff that you're not really comfortable doing, and just to see everybody appear to play scared, those little glimpses of the scared football, the scaredness and shyness, I don't like to see that, because that's not showing signs of growth. You want to get away from that. That's a big reason why I'm not a Lions fan anymore, because they still revert back to some of those old tendencies that make them the Lions. That's why I say, oh, that's the Lions. Oh, that's the Lions' luck, whatever. And so to go back to old tendencies and things like that, yeah, Harbaugh's not in the field. He's not making those plays, but he is making the call to put Alex Orgy in there, if not Sherrone Moore, which Harbaugh should be in, somewhat a cahoots with Sherrone Moore, of saying, hey, are we putting Alex Orgy in or not? Why, or if we do, why? Give me a good reason to, or why the hell you want to. So question marks there. Obviously, the stuff with the muff punt and things like that. I'd get a hands team guy out there if it's going to be a deep punt. If not, just let it roll right in the end zone, because we don't need to touch that ball. We'd rather get pinned on the 1 than have a chance of a muff punt turn touchdown in a Rose Bowl game that's already a nail biter. And, I guess thank heavens Jalen Milroe and the Alabama offense didn't really bring their best performance on Monday, because, it could have been a very different outcome if they did. And obviously you can slice it however you want. Michigan won the game, and they were the better team. They beat Nick Saban in a college football playoff scenario in a postseason game, and that is what it is. It was a scramble in the last play of the game on the 4th down there, and we were talking about it pre-show a little bit. And talk about a snafu. If it's a bad snap, it's a bad snap. But, just a huge defensive stand for the Michigan defense. That was the play of the game. Tip your caps to the Michigan defense, and especially that middle linebacker core. They did their jobs. They stayed home. They protected the middle, and you counted on a bad snap, but they had 3 stoppages to make that play out otherwise, being Alabama and Nick Saban, the entire offensive, coordinator crew, everybody for the Crimson Tide. They didn't get it done. So you got to tip your cap to the Michigan defense.
Yeah, part of that crew, Tommy Rees, former Notre Dame quarterback. So it just felt good to beat Tommy Reese again in a whole different kind of way. But besides the point, yeah, I just want to, a little bit more credit for Michigan in regards to how they played. They got 5 sacks the first half of the game. Absolutely had that Alabama offensive line reeling and could put no real protection around Jaden Miller do anything besides, scramble up the middle with the ball, which usually got a decent chunk of yardage when he had to do so. But the adjustments that they made going into the second half, I mean, they got one more sack in the second half, but that the adjustments made by the offensive line to really open holes for Jace McClellan and, give Milroe a little bit more time to get down the field, give Alabama the lead. I think that they said that the Alabama offensive line is bigger than the average NFL offensive line. I think I heard that said by one of the announcers, and for Michigan to find ways. They were doing a lot of disguising their coverage, their blitzes in the first half, but then a lot of substitutions and finding ways to still play sound in coverage when you're not getting as much pressure on Jaden Milroe. And like you said, the linebacker core doing what they had to do, being in the positions that they were in, forcing field goals at the end of the game. And really, that's what Michigan has been all year, one of the best defensive teams in the whole nation. And, I think that's what's going to win them the game on Monday, ultimately, is locking down Penix, getting some pressure on him. Don't let him look to his second and third options and, extend plays. So it's going to be interesting. One of the most prolific offensives in the nation and passers against the best defense in all the land. So the metal's going to meet the road, as they say.
Yeah, just real quick, last thing about the Alabama offense and Jalen Milroe and everything that they've been able to do, and basically their schemes, just how Saban uses a quarterback is not a one size fits all model. With Jalen Milroe, that is not. There's no difference with Jalen Milroe in there in the pocket, and they pride themselves in the RPO. They pride themselves off counters, misdirections, and they did that. They played that type of offense, and it worked. It worked by saying, hey, we're going to run it this way. Oh, we're going to pass it this way. Jet sweep, fake the jet sweep. Okay, we might pass it down and do a hitch. But it's all by design for Jalen Milroe to run the ball. And everybody knows that on that offensive line, and everybody around them knows that. So to take that into account, just to know how Alabama plays football, to know how they play offense, is really it's really kind of amazing to see them play against a team like Michigan and to see Michigan basically suffocate Alabama from the inside out. And that's exactly what they did. We saw that, we witnessed that, and we would have seen a lot different score line if that wasn't the case. So to suffocate the RPO, try to limit Jalen Milroe as much as possible from running the ball, too, and then also limit the pass, because if you limit the pass, I mean that's an easy point of kryptonite for any defense. I don't care how stealth they are or how juggernaut status they are. If you can't stop the pass, your defense is trash. So to be able to do that, to basically limit them to not pass or really not leave anyone really open to get a major pass or to get a game ending pass that you have to take and you have to look at and go back to the drawing board at, and really takes away all the progress you've made as a defense. They did a lot of good things to limit those big plays, the big passes, and to basically suffocate the RPO and the quarterback running. So impressive stuff from Michigan. They're going to have to do the exact same going forward into the CFP National Championship game. Washington versus Michigan. Got the line up there, but it got cut off. We'll fill you in. Michigan -4.5. Michigan -4.5. How are we feeling about that spread, Cody? I guess just looking at it, it's subject to change. Obviously, we're looking at a juggernaut offense against a juggernaut defense. What are we dealing with here?
Yeah, I like the line. It might seem a little big to, the Husky fans out there, but I took Michigan -4.5 in this previous game, so I actually bought it up a little bit. I thought they were going to win by 5. I was just scrolling through the interwebs thinking about the game, and I seen someone say Michigan by 5. And I'm like, you know what? I'm with you, bro. And hey, it paid off. It came down to the wire. And if if Jim Harbaugh coached a little bit like Dan Campbell, they might have only won by 1 if he would have went for 2 instead of play for overtime, which forgot to bring that up. But
Damn,
just
that's
kind of,
true. Because they had missed that other field goal earlier in the game
yeah,
that
that
really
extra
would have killed
point,
them.
definitely, yeah, the extra point you make that, then that's a whole different ball game too. But nonetheless, I think Michigan is built to beat a team like the Washington Huskies because they're built to beat Ohio State, which normally features a prolific NFL type passer and C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, and a core of wide receivers that are some of the best in the country. Wide receiver U is what a lot of people call Ohio State as of late, with the names of Olave and Wilson, Harrison Jr. to join the ranks soon, Michael Thomas. The list goes on and on as far as Buckeye receivers. So this Michigan defense, they're built for this. And I didn't see any interceptions in this Alabama game. That means you're going to see some in this game coming up. Michael Penix is not afraid, so he's gonna take his chances, and I think that Michigan's gonna cash in and at least one. And when they do, when someone gets their hands on the ball, they're gonna put a little return on it. If it's Mikey Sainer still, if it's Will Johnson, um, if it's Rod Moore, a lot of these guys, they're ready and they want some turnovers because they had some trouble forcing them in this previous game, and you're going to need a couple, and I think they'll get them. And another component of this is people like Mike Sainer still, Junior Colson, Michael Barrett. They've all seen Michael Penix before, albeit a different version of him in 2019 when he played for the Indiana Hoosiers. But they've seen him before, and they're ready for this rematch. They're ready to see if they can take him down a peg, because right now he's getting all the hype, all the love as far as the national media, and I think that Michigan is built to beat this Washington Huskies team. So that I'll give it to you after that.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. So, gotta tip your cap to everybody that's dealing with a Michael Penix quarterback from the defensive side, because you're looking at a quarterback that has came a long way. Starting off as a Hoosier and moving on to be a Washington Husky, really grown into his own, and has became the quarterback which he is today. And that's what we're dealing with here. And I say we, I'm looking at it from an analytical perspective. I'm not saying I'm a Michigan fan over here, but listen, Michigan came far enough. They faced the trials and tribulations. They beat Ohio State. They beat Alabama. Just go and win it all. Okay, I said it here before. Just go on and win it all. Do it. So what is it going to take? What are the tools that you need in your arsenal to go on and beat a Washington Huskies team if you are Michigan? You're going to have to limit the pass. You're going to have that strong linebacker core because Michael Penix can run the ball, believe it or not. And you're also going to have to, succeed on offense, maybe get some big break stops, a couple picks, like Cody alluded to. That's going to be huge. You need those, building blocks to be able to build yourself a win in a national championship game, which, let's be honest, Michigan has struggled to get to. They've been very close. They've been, knocking, but they haven't made it to the game yet. So how are they going to play in a game of this status? Same goes for Washington, though. Same goes for Washington. Yes, they've been building the team. Yes, they've been playing well, but there's no way that they are prepared for this game any more than Michigan is. They're both in the same boat as far as postseason play. Let's just be happy there's no SEC teams to deal with in this game, because that's a blessing in and of itself, regardless of who else is playing. So the beauty of this, too, and we talked about this pre-show, these two teams are going to be Big Ten teams next year. They're playing in the regular season and a conference game. Regardless who won that Washington game, like you said, Cody, that Washington-Texas game, the Sugar Bowl, those would both be regular season games for Michigan next year. Maybe the Texas one wouldn't be a conference game, but I like a little bit of Big Ten versus SEC matchup during the regular season. I love seeing that. We need more of that in the preseason. You got to have your cupcake games, but throw a couple of those cross-conference This is conference rivalry we're dealing with, and that's something that we're going to be talking about here going into the offseason and into next season. So that's exciting stuff in and of itself. But this is going to be a conference game next year. That's exciting stuff. And, both teams are going to need to do what they do. What does Washington need to do if they want to beat Michigan? They're going to have to succeed through the air. They're going to have to complete their passes. They're going to be smart with the football. And this game's going to come down to ball security. Who's going to hold and who's going to protect the ball the most. And also who's going to attack the ball on defense. Because if you can get in there and really mess with the ball security that the other team's trying to do, then you're already off on the right foot. So this could be a hell of a game.
Yeah, if you're Washington, you want to turn it into a shootout. You want to make it basically into what the TCU Michigan game was last year, because Michigan is not made to go score 55 points. Like, they had to stay in that game, but that offense and JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, the offensive line, that's not their identity. They want to slow the game down, dominate TOP, time of possession, and have 250 on the ground, and then whatever else happens, that's just icing on the top. And if they're able to do that and turn it into a defensive slugfest, that's Michigan's ball game. But then Washington, they're going to want to do the other way. They're like the Golden State Warriors of college football. They want a barn burner. They're chucking threes all game, live or die by the deep ball, and that's what they're going to want to do.
I'll tell you this. This is what both these teams, and this is the one thing that's keeping both these teams up at night leading up to the 8th, and that is the adaptability that both these teams are capable of. They can adapt to a defense. They can adapt to an offense if you're playing on defense. They can adapt to everything. They're like a chameleon. They can get a team and play against a team, and next thing you know that they're playing just like them, if not a little bit better than them at their own game. And we saw that, like you said, Michigan's not a shootout style team. They did it against TCU. They fell short barely, but TCU was exposed on a great level against Georgia in the national championship. We saw that happen. We saw the Stetson Bennett effect take place. So the adaptability ran out, and that was their style, but it didn't work against a team like Georgia. So maybe not the best comparison to a game like this, but the adaptability factor is still there. It's still very real, and it's going to be prevalent in this game no matter what happens. Who's going to set the tone? The follow-up question to the adaptability factor is who's going to set the tone first, and who's going to basically set the course for the entire game, essentially. So it's going to be an exciting game. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a battle, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And I couldn't be more excited, man. It's going to be a good one.
Yep, man. It's just a privilege to watch my team. I've been rooting for my whole life compete for a national championship, and I hope we get it done. I feel good about it. Best of luck to the Washington Huskies. Made the better team. Hoist the trophy at the end of the year. And it's a special one. It's the last time as the 4-team format. So
that's right.
It means a little something extra, because it'll be different next year, just like it was different being a BCS champion. So
that's right.
It's the end of an era, and this champion's going to be remembered.
That's right. It's going to be stamped in history. It's going to be etched in stone. Whoever won the last of the college football playoff when it was a 4-team format, the first format of a college football playoff format at all, because the BCS was a BCS. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a championship game, the best 2 teams, whatever. But this is the first actual college football playoff that was started, and it's going to be ending on the 8th as from the first style of format, the first format that it had since its origination, going into the 12 teams. So yes, this is going to be a big one. One to leave into the history books and move forward with going into the 12 team. So very exciting stuff. Cody, that brings us to the end of the podcast. You got any final words, final thoughts going into the rest of the week and into this final game of the college football season? It's finally here. It's over. And, we made it. It went by fast like we expected it to. But what are your major takeaways? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just going to sit back, enjoy this national championship. Hope the boys get it done. If not, like you said, we got the Rose Bowl victory already, and lots to look forward to going forward. and the state of college football in general with the new playoff, which, that'll be a big topic for us in the off season. And then we're going to start looking at some college basketball here soon as well. So exciting stuff, but enjoy this college football, the last of it. And then get ready for some NFL playoffs, baby, because the Lions are going to be in it this year. And that's something special as well.
That's right. Always something good on the horizon. Well said. Make sure to check us out on social media. Check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, at ginsportsnetwork on IG, at ginpros on Twitter/X, and at Gin College on IG as well. Make sure to check us out for all of our updates.
Yeah.
Little technical difficulties there. Make sure to check us out for all of our social media posts, everything we got going on social media. Check us out from our socials and our link tree, which is also in the bottom of the podcast. So we look forward to hearing you guys and seeing you guys next time here on the GCP. But for now, I'm John J. II here with Cody Almasi. Have a great night.